Courtroom was silent, the world outside buzzing with anticipation, when an unexpected figure stepped forward. Justin Bieber, the young pop sensation whose life had often been under the spotlight for both music and controversy, made his way toward Diddy with a determination that stunned onlookers. What people had thought would be just another high-profile case took a dramatic turn when Bieber showed up in support of the embattled music mogul. For months, speculation about Diddy's fate had swirled endlessly, with every tabloid, blog, and social media influencer dissecting his future. Yet no one had predicted that Justin Bieber would become the one to tilt the balance of the narrative, offering the type of personal help that went far beyond public appearances or empty words. Those who were present described the scene as surreal. A young man once dismissed as troubled and reckless was now stepping into the role of a loyal ally, giving emotional strength to someone who had once been his mentor and one-time industry powerhouse. Diddy, who had faced countless accusations, legal battles, and emotional burdens in the past year, could barely hold back his tears as Bieber extended his hand. Witnesses claimed that Diddy whispered something quietly, words too soft for the microphones to catch, but his body language told the story. The hardened image of a rap mogul cracked in that very moment, revealing raw vulnerability. It wasn't the cameras, the journalists, or the crowd that caused his breakdown. It was the realization that someone he once guided now stood beside him to help him breathe through the storm. Justin Bieber's connection to Diddy was never just a casual industry friendship. In fact, their relationship dated back to Bieber's earliest days in the business, when the young Canadian teenager had barely tasted fame. Diddy had been one of the influential figures who opened doors for him, introducing him to the labyrinth of fame, fortune, and the darker corners of celebrity culture. There were critics who claimed that those years had harmed Bieber, dragging him into environments too toxic for a child star, yet the bond never completely dissolved. Despite public controversies and tabloid scandals, Justin always held a certain respect for Diddy. That respect now transformed into action at a moment when Diddy most needed someone to stand by. The courtroom energy shifted as Justin addressed the judge, not with arrogance, but with humility. He spoke about the power of forgiveness, about the humanity behind the headlines, and about how the world was quick to condemn without fully understanding the layers of a man's life. Every word carried weight because it came not from a legal professional but from someone whose life had been publicly dissected in similar ways. Justin knew firsthand how it felt to be judged by millions, how it felt to be reduced to a headline that ignored the human heart beating beneath the mistakes. That shared pain created a bridge between him and Diddy, a bridge no courtroom could erase. For years, Justin had been rebuilding his own life, emerging from a past filled with legal issues, addiction struggles, and public meltdowns. Many thought he would never recover, that his career and personal life would collapse under the weight of early fame. But his journey toward redemption gave him a new lens through which to see others. Standing in court, defending Diddy in ways no one expected, wasn't just about loyalty, it was about empathy. He knew what it meant to be abandoned in moments of darkness. He knew the emptiness of watching supposed friends disappear when scandals erupted. And now, perhaps for the first time, he was offering the kind of support he once longed for himself. Diddy's reaction was not staged. The mogul who had built an empire on strength, resilience, and untouchable confidence broke down. Tears slid down his face, not because the cameras were rolling, but because the gesture pierced through years of accusations, battles, and loneliness. Those close to Diddy admitted later that he had felt completely cornered in recent months, convinced that no one truly cared about him beyond his wealth and influence. To see Bieber show up with sincerity and stand by him when it mattered most reminded him that loyalty could still exist, even in the shallow world of fame. Observers said the judge himself paused, visibly taken aback by the emotional weight in the room. Lawyers whispered to each other, unsure whether Bieber's testimony and presence would sway the final decision. But one thing was certain, it changed the mood of the case. Diddy was no longer just another celebrity defendant battling accusations. He became a man whose story included deep bonds, regrets, and unexpected acts of redemption. And Justin's role in that story highlighted something that rarely surfaced in the industry: genuine compassion. Social media erupted instantly. Within minutes, hashtags like #JustinForDiddy and #BieberBreaksTheSilence trended worldwide. Fans who had once criticized Bieber for his past were suddenly praising him for courage and loyalty. Even skeptics admitted that his act carried authenticity. Clips of Diddy breaking down went viral, with millions of viewers commenting on how rare it was to see him so vulnerable. Comment sections overflowed, with mixed emotions. Some argued that Diddy didn't deserve help, while others insisted that everyone deserved a second chance. But regardless of opinions, the moment had captured the world's attention. forcing people to see the human side of an otherwise sensationalized case. The days that followed turned into a media storm. Analysts debated the impact of Bieber's involvement, with some speculating that his presence had directly influenced the court's decision to let Diddy walk free. Legal experts argued that while judges don't base rulings on emotions, the atmosphere inside the courtroom can affect perceptions. And Bieber had shifted the atmosphere more than any lawyer could. Diddy walking free wasn't just a legal victory, it was a symbolic one, wrapped in tears, loyalty, and public spectacle. For Justin, this wasn't about proving anything to the world. Friends close to him revealed that he had agonized over whether to step in, knowing the backlash that could come with defending someone as controversial as Diddy. But ultimately, his faith, his personal growth, and his sense of loyalty overpowered fear. He had learned over time that silence in moments of truth felt heavier than criticism, so he chose to act, even if it meant dividing opinions. The emotional breakdown Diddy experienced afterward became a symbol in itself. For decades, he had embodied strength, power, and dominance. But now, millions saw him stripped of all that, crying like a man who had finally been reminded of his humanity. Some fans of Bieber said they saw a reflection of themselves in that moment, proof that no matter how powerful or famous someone becomes, every human being longs for compassion. The story didn't end when Diddy walked out of the courthouse. In fact, that was only the beginning of a wave that swept through Hollywood, the music industry, and beyond. Paparazzi cameras flashed endlessly as Diddy stepped into the sunlight, visibly shaken, his eyes still red from tears. Behind him, Justin Bieber followed quietly, his head lowered, not seeking attention but inevitably becoming the center of it. Every lens turned toward the unlikely duo, freezing the moment that would dominate global headlines. Reporters screamed questions, asking Bieber why he had chosen to defend Diddy, and whether he believed the mogul deserved to be free. Justin didn't answer immediately. He simply placed a hand on Diddy's shoulder and guided him through the crowd, a silent act that spoke louder than words. For Diddy, who had often been surrounded by large entourages, security teams, and celebrity friends, this single act of human touch meant more than any army of supporters. His emotional collapse inside the courtroom hadn't been a sign of weakness. It had been the release of years of pressure finally melting under a friend's loyalty. Later that evening, sources close to the pair revealed that Bieber had privately met with Diddy long before the court appearance. In those meetings, Bieber reminded Diddy of the advice he himself had once received from him during the early years of his career. Diddy had told a young Justin to never let the world define his worth, to remember that the headlines were temporary but the soul was eternal. Ironically, it was Bieber now repeating those same words back to Diddy, a full-circle moment that neither man could have predicted. That exchange was said to be one of the reasons Diddy broke down, because he realized that the boy he once mentored had now grown into a man strong enough to hold him up in return. The music world reacted with intensity. Artists who had remained silent suddenly began posting cryptic messages online. Some praised Bieber for his bravery, calling him a true brother in an industry that forgets loyalty. Others criticized him, accusing him of siding with someone they believed should face harsher consequences. But regardless of the division, one thing became clear: Justin's involvement had made the case more personal, more emotional, and far harder to dismiss as just another celebrity scandal. Behind the scenes, friends of Justin admitted that he had wrestled with his decision. He knew stepping into the spotlight in this way could reignite old criticisms against him. He knew tabloids would twist his loyalty into something darker, perhaps accusing him of enabling bad behavior. Yet he still chose to act because, in his words, sometimes helping a friend isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. That simple philosophy revealed how much Bieber had changed over the years. The young man who once ran from responsibility was now facing it head-on, even when it wasn't convenient. For Diddy, the aftermath of walking free was overwhelming. Cameras captured him thanking Justin with a tight embrace outside his home. He was visibly shaking, still processing the weight of freedom, the storm of emotions, and the realization that someone had stood by him when so many had turned away. That moment between the two men became one of the most replayed clips on television, a symbol of friendship surviving the harshest trials. Fans around the world took sides, but even critics admitted one thing: seeing Diddy break down humanized him in a way the world had never seen before. For decades, he had been the symbol of power, success, and control. But in tears, he was simply a man. And in Bieber's quiet loyalty, the world witnessed something rare: unfiltered compassion in an industry that often forgets what compassion looks like. In the days that followed, the emotional courtroom scene continued to echo far beyond legal circles. Television networks replayed the clip of Bieber standing beside Diddy, slowing down the moment when Diddy's composure shattered and the tears fell. Analysts described it as one of the most unexpected public breakdowns in recent celebrity history, and what made it even more remarkable was that it had been triggered not by defeat, but by loyalty. The image of Justin steadying Diddy's shoulders became a symbol of what true friendship can look like under impossible pressure. Meanwhile, fans of both men began sharing their personal stories online. Young people who had once felt abandoned by friends or family during their darkest hours admitted that Bieber's gesture gave them hope. They saw in him a reflection of what they wished someone had done for them, to stand beside them, even when the rest of the world seemed determined to walk away. Social media flooded with messages like, "This isn't about fame or money, it's about humanity." Those words trended almost as much as the hashtags tied to Bieber and Diddy. Privately, insiders shared that Diddy had confessed to feeling unworthy of such loyalty. After years of living with both admiration and condemnation, he had grown accustomed to the idea that everyone had a limit to how far they'd go for him. Yet Justin shattered that belief, showing up not out of obligation but out of choice. That was why the tears flowed so heavily, because for once, Diddy realized someone had chosen him for who he was, not what he represented. For Bieber, the days after the trial were quiet. He avoided interviews, declined to make statements, and instead stayed close to his inner circle. Those who knew him best said he wanted no credit, no applause, only peace for Diddy and space for healing. But his silence only fueled more respect from those who had watched his transformation over the years. Once seen as a reckless celebrity spiraling out of control, Justin now appeared as a man grounded in empathy, faith, and maturity.